Welcome back to Red Business in Focus with Cork's local enterprise offices, where we're shining the spotlight on local businesses in Cork and meeting the people who are taking the business world by storm. This week we have the incredibly talented Justine Looney, who's in the hot seat from the Cork Flower Studio. Justine will be sharing the story of her creative and successful business and will fill us in on how she has directed the business in a more green, sustainable and efficient direction. Justine, you're very welcome. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm very well, thank you.
Flowers, it's a mad world.
It is.
We're going to get into it in a minute and we're going to talk about the green sustainability. But first of all, like everybody comes on the show, you have 30 seconds on the clock to tell us a little bit about the business. Off you go.
Okay, we're based on Douglas Street in the wonderful South Parish. We are there 15 years this year. We are a florist. We also have a takeaway coffee bar. We specialise in Irish design products, so nice gift things. We really push the local sustainable community ethos, and we're on a big green journey for the last 2 years or so, and we're constantly kind of evolving with that. Each stage brings us to the next.
Okay, very good. Bang on 30 seconds. Well
Okay,
done.
good.
Now, we actually spoke on the podcast, didn't we? Because
We did,
were talking about the little parklet that had been set up outside, and you were
That's right.
maintaining that parklet.
Yeah.
That was kind of around the start of that beginning of the green journey, wasn't it?
It kind of was, yeah. We were, it coincided, I think, with a couple of the initiatives we had started. So the community thing probably feeds into everything we do. There's a great community in Douglas Street. We kind of call it the village in the city. It does have that real village feel where everybody sort of knows each other. There's a lovely mix of residents and business and people coming and going. So that's always been a big part of our business, just by default, just the type of business it is. People come in and they talk to you about everything that's going on in their lives. So we are very familiar with the area. So the community thing sort of brought the parklet, and then it led on where you just had different things like people drinking coffee outside. You started to see how many paper cups were being used, you know, the amount of rubbish that was generated. So little things like that. Definitely the parklet was a real sort of focal point that we can say where
Now,
things started.
I'm going to hazard a guess to say that you could have ploughed on regardless with loads of plastic and not done any of the sustainable stuff, and the business probably wouldn't have suffered in any shape or form. Ultimately, long run, people would have noticed, but you didn't have to do what you did you?
I suppose we didn't, no. But it was something that was probably important to me. I think what I've found talking to people, customers, friends, family, everything over the last few years, is that people feel a little bit stuck as to how they can make a change. You know, this whole climate emergency thing seems so huge and so out of our control and so dependent on sort of fossil fuel companies and all these really wealthy corporations, faceless. It depends on them doing something before we can sort of see any benefits. And I think it was a lot of that was about being a little bit more in control of our own situation and just saying, well, look, let's see what we can do.
It's the little small things though. I mean,
It really is, yeah.
One thing that happens with flowers, if you buy them in a petrol station or you get them from a florist, there's loads of packaging, there's loads of plastic. Up until recently it was the kind of stuff you couldn't even put in the recycling.
Exactly.
How did you address that? Because it's the small little things, isn't it?
Well, that was a big thing for us. I think everybody's familiar with that image of Buckingham Palace after Princess Diana died, and it's literally the sea of flowers, but that's how we all see it. But when you actually look at that image and think about the plastic, it's a sea of plastic. It's a sea of plastic outside, and it's always stuck with me since it was pointed out to me that it's not really flowers. It's just kind of occurred to me how much packaging there is in our industry and how much unnecessary packaging there is. And something that I really like about being self-employed is that I like being a bit rebellious, and I like saying, well, actually, I don't answer to anybody. So if I want to do that, I can do that. Yeah. So there was a couple of factors, and that was the big thing.
But it also ended up saving you a bit of time, didn't it? Because
it ended up saving us quite a bit of time.
Yeah, so it was the equivalent of a full work day.
Absolutely, yeah. So with flowers, you'd notice that you have these plastic sleeves. Usually you put some paper inside them just to kind of make them look prettier. Then you wrap a plastic base to sort of create a bubble, and you fill that with water, and then you make a cardboard box, and then the bubble sits into the box and you tie a bow on it. And people don't think about the amount of time that takes, but actually each one of those probably takes up to kind of 20 minutes or so to complete, to make the packaging and to wrap a bouquet. And by replacing it with a glass vase, we were literally standing the flowers into the vase, and there was none of the packaging. And the time savings, while it wasn't initially the reason, it became a really good benefit.
It also saves the time of where did I put the vase, which is the constant challenge, I think, in my house.
Exactly.
Flowers that come
exactly.
in. The way you deliver the flowers, you changed that as well. And that saved you on fuel.
Yes, we started using, so we got a cargo bike just before COVID hit. It was probably about February, and we had found city centre deliveries in particular, while we're so close to the city centre, they were taking forever because you've got like one-way systems, you've got traffic, you're trying to find a loading bay.
You're on Douglas Street, which is
exactly,
a very, very difficult street to navigate.
Yeah, so we do deliver all over the city and suburbs, and obviously you do need the van to go that bit further, but we decided we'd try out the cargo bike. Obviously everyone started working from home then, so it was a slow ease into it, but actually people started coming back into town, and we started delivering more and more there, and it's just brilliant. The time it saves is amazing, and there's nearly an argument about who gets to cycle it, because it's a nice little break from the shop.
Who gets the burn off the bike? Is that what
yeah,
it is?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good complaint and a good argument to have to go work.
And it's become an extra, you've got the little bit of advertising. It's noticeable when you go around and people say they've spotted at different places. So it sort of has kill two birds with one stone effect. Yeah.
You did get some support from the local enterprise office in the form of Green for Micro. So
Green for
tell
Micro.
us a little bit about what Green for Micro allowed you to do.
Okay, so I suppose a lot of the initiatives we had already started, we would have had a relationship with the enterprise board anyway. They've always been really supportive of lots of different things that we've been doing. So once they knew the different ones, different things that we'd already started ourselves, they told us about the Green for Micro programme, which we signed up to, and in exchange they made this video and used us as like the ambassador for the Green for Micro scheme, just to show how a small business can actually make an impact without doing anything too massive. And I suppose the big thing was to show that it was cost effective rather than costly, that we were actually benefiting ourselves as well as sort of doing the right thing, I suppose you could say. So then they organised it. So basically what they did was they asked us where we needed help, because we had achieved so much sort of by ourselves, but where we needed help. So I suppose one of the big things for us was like energy costs. That was one thing that we hadn't looked at, and what were we doing wrong there. So they set us up with a mentor who came and did a whole sort of survey of the building, of all the energy we're using, of our whole setup, how we dispose of things, our green waste, our electricity consumption, lighting, obviously heating, all of that kind of thing, and then came back with very technical, the number of kilowatts we're using, how we could save, things like that. So we're looking out to get solar panels as our next investment on the back of the Green for Micro
I'd say
programme.
the only thing that is the same about the business is the fact that you sell flowers. The flowers are probably the only constant. You seem to have kind of migrated everything else to a sustainable, modern way of doing it.
Yeah, to be honest, they feed into each other. So each step you take, you suddenly start to see other things that could be changed, and those kind of things feed into the next step sort of quite organically. So I suppose one of the next things that came up for us was Irish grown, and it's something that's sort of taken off in the last few years. It's become quite popular again. Irish flower farmers, there's quite a lot of them out there. So we started getting some Irish grown products as well. So it's a constant, like the things that we do now, we would never have thought we would have been doing 2-3 years ago.
And the bottom line is you didn't have to do them, but now that you've done them,
they've been massively beneficial, yeah.
Give us the website if people want to order some of the finest flowers you get in Cork.
So it's corkflowerstudio.com.
Justine Looney.
Simple as that.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Join us next week when we'll be speaking to Benny Musa of Benson's Menwear about his successful business and his passion for textiles. We'll also be chatting to him about how they stepped up during COVID-19 to put the community first in their business. See you next week on Red Business in Focus, with thanks to Cork's local enterprise office.